things.
I got lots of things. I got things that I got things coming out of the thing hole.
That's what we should have called this. That's what we should have called this podcast. The thing hole.
Thing hole. Thing hole presents climate change or climate crises. You know, it's funny. You look up climate crises and like nothing pops up, even though you think it would be a better terminology than change, because I feel like change still offers the wriggle room of, is it changing? Is it our fault that it's changing? What's changing? Is it, I mean, what do we call change? What's change anyway? You know, that kind of thing. Whereas if it's a crisis, it's like, okay, now we're talking, now we're cooking, now we're in the kitchen. You know, it's similar to the how I like that language about, what was it, the boiling? We're at the boiling point. It was like the this like tipping point of no return.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact vernacular that you use, but I feel like we need to rebrand this thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, because what was it at the beginning? Like like when we were learning about it as kids, what did we call it?
The beginning, it was the greenhouse gas and greenhouse effect and global
Global
warming.
warming. That was it. Yeah, global warming. And then they were like, we need to rebrand this because everyone's getting confused, because it's not just all about the planet warming. There are converse effects going on. Some places may get colder, some places will get hotter. Uh, and then you got the climate change, and now climate change is just so amorphous. People are, it makes it easier to argue, either, unfaithfully. If I can't remember if that's
Well, they say the climate changes naturally, and this is a
there you go.
naturally occurring
Exactly.
cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Things of that nature.
Ignoring the rate of change.
Or
Yeah.
cherry picking facts without without context, in order to like prove a small point. And yeah, so I'm just saying, yeah, I like climate crisis, but like nobody uses it. It's like it's got like no hits. You look it up on SEO, it's like 6,000 terms, 6,000 searches for climate crisis.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No one thinks it's a big deal, clearly.
Not really. So anyway, so we've been talking a lot about big picture change, and I wanted to bring it back to the rural level. Not rural. I wanted to back local. I wanted to bring it back to the local level. I felt like you were doing a lot of dishing about solutions here and there, and I think that's what we should be focused on. We should be focused on how could we make our world a better place by making our lives better. So it's like we're helping out the planet. Yes, this is in part due to the emissions that we are giving off by our everyday existence as the dominant species on the planet. And there are other things that there are other aspects of our life that are just plain old annoying, and we could kill two birds with one stone. So we could help out the planet a little bit, but we can also help out ourselves. And at the end of the day, it's the things that usually help out ourselves that I feel like people are more ready to get on board, or at least
Wait,
yeah.
I'm confused. Are we going to kill the planet and ourselves with one stone? Who are the two birds here?
Well, that's a alternate future. It's a future if we do nothing. If we do nothing, we will kill ourselves and the planet. So that's the come see come saw situation. But like we talked about in the last episode, money shields. So it's really the poor, the people who are the poorest in that scenario. But in this scenario, I'm talking about saving ourselves as well as the planet. And when I say save ourselves, I mean save.
So
yeah, go on.
you need a new analogy then. It's almost like save two birds with one feeder or something like that, right?
Raise two birds with one palm of the hand.
Right? Something like that. I mean,
Something
you
like
touch
that.
the bird, the mother doesn't want it anymore, so you
and then you
careful
raise
of
it as
that.
your own. I
you raise
will
it- oh.
raise the boy. I will raise
There
the
you
boy.
go. There you go. All right, go ahead. Go on with your
Okay.
go on with your thing.
Article called Kingdom of Golf Carts. Appeared in Bloomberg. Go as such. With about 9,300 golf carts registered among its 13,000 households, this town, 31 miles southwest of Atlanta, might be the most golf cart friendly municipality in America. 100 miles of car free multi use paths crisscross the town's 25 square miles, and many shopping centers and public buildings provide dedicated golf cart parking. A cartoon of one of the little vehicles appears on the town's official logo.
I mean, aren't golf courses notoriously bad for the environment?
Golf courses, yes. Golf carts, well, the jury's still out on that. Are they bad?
I mean, I assume they're
They're
electric. I assume they're electric golf carts.
electric vehicles. They
Okay.
are EVs. That's what we're talking about here.
So when you say golf carts, because I think this is important for everyone to know,
Okay.
you are not associating it necessarily with golf courses.
No.
There's a lot of golf carts. This is going to be a tough episode. There's going to be a lot of golf carts in this town, but that does not mean that there are a lot of golf courses. That's not why there are that many golf carts.
That's correct. Well, we'll get to that. Yeah. Well, we will explain a little bit more of that. So, more context to this. Okay. There are other U.S. cities that embrace golf carts as transportation, such as Villages, which is a 55 and older development of 80,000 people in Florida that has about 90 miles of multi-use paths. There are newer so-called golf cart communities in the U.S., such as Sun City, Arizona, Palm Desert, California, that allow carts and cars to mingle on low-speed public roads. But Peachtree City, that's right, Peachtree City, Georgia, stands alone as an all-ages suburb where golf carts are intrinsic to local life.
What is the age that you have to be to drive a golf cart? Do you know?
I do know.
Oh,
I do know because I I researched.
You're welcome for that segue.
I researched on this article. Like, I'll skip ahead. I wasn't even going to get to that one, but anyone 16 or older can legally drive one, regardless of whether they have a driver's license, as well as 15-year-olds with learner's permits. Children can drive with an adult in a front seat with them once they turn 12.
Yeah, now, I thought so. I just don't know the rules. Yeah, on the road.
This is in the 1970s, Georgia passed legislation exempting golf carts from state motor vehicle laws, empowering local jurisdictions to establish their own laws. So the laws I just read are specific to Peachtree City and the county that they happen to reside.
I mean, I can only imagine that is supposed to be if golf carts are off of the roads, used in a recreational sense, in a controlled setting, away from roads. That doesn't, because they're clearly not able to sustain damage. They don't even have doors.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I referenced a couple of cities that allow them on low speed roads. So I mean, that's again, that's up to the speed of the road. Apparently, that's legal in other states such as Arizona and California.
But can another car, can a normal car drive on this low speed road?
And the multi-use roads, so low speed road, yes. The multi-use roads that we're talking about in Peachtree City specifically are car exclusionary, I believe. At least, but majority are. So there might be some that do commingle. So don't get at me if anyone's from Peachtree City listening to this. Yes, I accept. There probably are roads that are commingle, but there are also a wide swath of just golf car specific pathways in this city. That's what makes it very unique.
Define low speed road.
Why are you doing this to me? I know a lot. I thought I had every question that you could come up with, and then now you've asked. You're right. I didn't look up what a low speed road is.
Because I'm trying to imagine a 12-year-old going 30 miles an hour with no doors.
That's not a low speed. All right, that is not a low speed road. You're right.
Is it like 5?
It is specified. It is specified. Okay, I'm assuming that it is a low speed road would be the same speed that is allowed for a school zone. That's how I would compartmentalize that, and so I would say it's around 15 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. That's what I would assume is supposed to be a low speed road. But you let me know if the federal government has an actual distinction for what could be called a low speed road that I just was not aware of. Okay,
I'm gonna let you know.
You let me know. You let me go.
I'm on Georgia's government website right now.
Okay, you let me know what they think is a Peachtree.
A maximum speed of 20 miles per hour.
There we go. Good for listeners. So I said 25, so I was 5 above. So a low speed road is anything below. I can't believe that's an official designation by the federal government as to low speed road. That's cool.
Yeah, Georgia code, low speed vehicles.
Okay. So Peachtree City's distinctive mobility approach dates to the town's founding in the 1950s, aligning it with urban planning movements that were popular in both the UK and US that aimed to create comprehensively planned communities that provide a place to work, live, and play. Many were envisioned with car-free circulation paths. You have any thoughts on that? Here's the thought that I had immediately when I read that. When I read that, I was like, okay, this is where modern history is a massive blind spot in the American education system because there's so many things I just do not know about how the suburbs were created. Any of like the besides a couple of like Levittown, you know about that in Long Island, like you know about like what was the quintessential suburb and how did that spread. But in terms of our schooling, we need to really get into the nitty gritty of like, especially if you the local areas, places like Jersey, you know, New York or what have you, for these suburbs, because these are some of the earliest suburbs and how they were actually put into place. Like what were the government grants that were given? You know, what was the intent of these suburban cities? Because if I had known that there was a difference between suburban areas that were designed to be a place that is basically their Google offices, like Google stole that from them. It's like, I want you to eat, sleep, and live in this area versus commuter towns, which I always heard of commuter towns, but I actually, as a city kid, assumed that all suburbs were basically built as a commuter town. They were built as a place that people could escape the city, they live, and then they commute into the city because that's all the commuter rails. That's all we know. You know of the people coming in from Connecticut on the Metro North. You know about people coming in on Jersey Transit. You know Jersey Transit extends quite a distance. You know the ferry system. You assume that all suburbs were created so that people of wealth.
To serve where you live.
Yeah, to serve
So
the city.
Antoine grew up for the better part of his life thinking he was the center of the world.
You do usually in New York. That is a New Yorkism. It's a very it's a very typical New Yorkism. In
Don't
fact,
all roads lead to New York? Literally.
In fact, the other day I said I went to the zoo and I was talking to a New Yorker. They were like, "You came all the way to the Bronx Zoo," and I was like, "There are other zoos besides the one in the Bronx. There are zoos throughout America. There is more than just one zoo in America. Not everyone comes to the Bronx Zoo. They could go to. There are local zoos. I have a local zoo. This is something you just don't know when you're city centric. Moving on, this again back to the history. If I know that there are differences in suburbs, the first thing I would have done is say, you know, where I want to move. I want to move to a closed circuit suburb, a suburb that was designed in the 50s for people to live there, versus suburbs that were created specifically to shuttle people back and forth between the city. I had no idea that that was a thing. I had no idea that was a competing ideology at the time.
Was that an evolution of suburbs, or was that the original and then we diverted from there?
No, I think there were competing ideologies at the time because again, okay. Levittown came out in the 60s. I mean, all these things came out in the same era. So it's not like Levittown was an evolution of these types of suburbs. It just looks like there were different designers out there. There were just different people trying to do different ideas for what a suburb should be. And some of them happened to end up like this, where there's just tons of walkability and all these weird multi-use paths because people weren't expected to leave. You were expected to move there and never go out, never go beyond.
Sounds like the Truman Show.
Basically, yeah, in a way, yeah, more or less. And again, they think that these suburbs are also marked by the fact that there probably is not a commuter rail system that goes in and out, because the article was definitely talking a bit about how secluded a lot of these suburbs are. I'll get into that a little bit as we go on, but yeah, that was an aspect of it. So it wasn't like there was ample public transport from getting from one town to a next in the same way that there are for like the New Jersey Transit towns that lead out of the city.
So, all right. I mean, a few things with this idea of, I assume the whole point of this is that there's zero emissions because they're EVs, and there's zero emissions because all you need are these EV.
That's correct.
These EV golf carts.
Yeah, I mean, you're stepping on the climate change aspect. Yeah.
Well, we all know what a golf cart is, and I'm not from Georgia, and I will admit I've never been. I don't know what their winters are like, or falls, or springs. I imagine summer's pretty hot.
It's hot.
What do you do? So we would need a modified version of that, obviously, an electric vehicle that's golf cart size, but can actually withstand winters in something like the Northeast.
Well,
and then you have the capacity of these towns.
Yeah.
How far can you drive this thing? And I imagine it's like a Tesla. It's just smaller. Like that's what you'd be advocating for in this scenario, is to have a town that's devised in such a way where small electric vehicles can make their way, drive 45 minutes across town if needed, and run errands and all that kind of stuff in larger sprawling towns.
Well, look, they're saying that they said there was 100 miles worth of golf course track throughout crisscrossing this town, and the town itself is approximately 25 miles, wide. Let's think of it as a circle. So I guess the 25 miles is like the uh, diameter. Don't get me. Don't get at me, geometry
I'm like
nerds.
waiting for you to tell me there's some like symbolism in the layout and the city planning of the town where it's like,
It's Freemason. It's
yeah,
the
basic.
Freemason logo. Didn't I? Weren't you getting that? Weren't you picking that up? It's clearly the Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyway, so here's the thing. Most, and this is probably why most towns gave way to the commuter model versus this model, because most towns eventually abandoned this model due to land costs and a lack of strong oversight. You need someone who is coordinating, said Anne Forsyth, a professor of urban planning at Harvard's Graduate School of Design, either a major private property developer who is using these paths as a sale mechanism, or very proactive town governance. So I mean, that's I guess two
And
things.
I don't get it in
Yeah.
the development of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
That you
correct. Like why this didn't take off as like the prevailing model. Why we have different types of suburbs in America. Why most people, well,
because
at
this
least
one's more high
myself,
maintenance to launch.
it require, again, not only is it high maintenance to launch because you have to there's just a lot of things to consider with regard to creating these types of plans, but there's also the fact that the town itself needs to be very involved in the continued monitoring of the expansion of these pathways, because as you develop, it is far easier, because again, this is something we don't really talk about on the pod because I feel like this is more of an infrastructure type podcast kind of thing, but a lot of the infrastructure podcasts I listen to talk about the incentives in this country with regard to building roads and making cars the main mode of transportation. There's a lot of incentives, and they could go further into that because I'm not an expert in that field. But you could at least take the overarching idea that if there are incentives to build roads for cars, then there aren't, you could almost say you're de-incentivized by that other incentive to do it this way, which means you're kind of bucking the trend. You're going against
Well,
what is the easiest mode of building out a city. So this is definitely this is more labor intensive, more time intensive for the city council, for the residents of the city to be more involved with how their city expands, and what have you. They're just saying there's just less, probably kickbacks in terms of like money and tax breaks and all these different things. You're probably missing out on a lot of it because you're not building roads, you're building golf cart paths.
and aren't you? I mean, I don't even know how delivery works, like how these businesses are receiving their resources from outside of this town. Like, where do the trucks go? How do
And
they
now
pull
there
up?
must be main thoroughfares.
Right. So
There
there's
must
got
be
to be
main
service
thoroughfares. We're
roads.
talking
So,
about, yeah, there must be
and
service
and
roads.
the
Yeah,
other thing is,
sure.
you're basically forcing everyone to own multiple vehicles, and really,
Correct. Yeah, that's
because they're
correct.
gonna
Which
have to
people
leave
already do, though.
eventually.
Which people already do. That's, I mean, that's the thing that they
No,
actually
but
did reference in the article.
if you and your spouse, let's say,
Yeah,
are working in this closed circuit town, you're each going to have an EV. You're each going to have a golf cart to get around. But then if you ever want to leave, now you have to buy a third normal car, something that people might not
well, they
normally have.
referenced. They said that the town has like two car garages, and one is usually a golf cart, and one is a regular normal car. So I mean, I don't know if both people need this golf cart to run around. I mean, maybe that is a special case. I don't know. It's. I will say this: based on the size of a golf cart, it is far easier to have two golf carts. That's probably not that big of a deal. Two golf carts are not the size of most SUVs, so you're still saving on space as far as your driveway is concerned. The article literally referenced a man who had a Hummer next to a golf cart. So if your driveway in the suburbs can still fit your Hummer and your golf cart, I think you're fine. I
Well,
don't
I was
think this
saying
is as
instead
big of
of
an
two
issue.
vehicles, hypothetically, you would need three: two EVs, two golf carts,
It
and a
didn't seem
normal
to.
car
It,
to.
I mean, I know that I mean, most people have two cars. They don't have three cars, so I don't really know
No, but if
why
you
you need
both,
three
no, you
cars,
need,
three vehicles.
well, because if you and your spouse are in town,
Correct.
you each would need an EV, right, to get
Or you could
around.
bike, yeah, but you could bike
Oh, well,
because of
come
the
on. What are you
paths. I'm
talking
just
about
saying.
here?
There's, I mean, I don't.
Who's
There's many
gonna,
different
who
ways.
drew the short end of that one?
I look. I mean,
Uh,
I think you're trying
oh,
to.
I'm
I
being
hear what you're
practical. I'm
saying.
being practical that you would
Yeah, but
have
I
to.
think it's in a like I hear you're trying. You're being practical, but it's in like it's in an unreasonable American way. Like it's like, because I'm just saying
No,
you have
my
two
my wife
cars.
and I both have a car,
Correct. So now you
and if
have a
we both want to go if we both have to work in town,
Yeah.
we would, and this
Commute
town is
together,
built
most
only.
likely.
Oh, what?
Why would you
What are
both drive two cars to the same town?
to two different jobs?
In the same town. You could walk at that point. Once you get to the main part of town, one of you park and you walk. I don't like what you're saying. You need to drive specifically to the building
Maybe
that you
for a
work.
small town. I don't know how big your town is.
Well, I mean, the town
You cannot
center.
walk the towns as they exist today. They are enormous.
Oh,
They could
okay.
take, I mean, they could take 20, 30 minutes just to drive a normal car
Oh no, I
down
don't.
an interstate road, down
Well,
a
I
main
think
highway.
yeah. If you're in a yeah, but that's not. I've never
And
taken a
that's just
highway
New
and been in the
Jersey.
same town. Well, I mean, I've driven. I mean, I've never taken I've never gotten on the Garden State and ended up in the same town. I've never
No,
left
I'm
one
talking about like a
town to
Route 70 in New Jersey, like a Route 70 or
that
18, not even 18,
spans.
like
Yeah,
70 goes across different towns.
yeah,
This is like
different
super
towns, but
generic
not.
or super
That's what I'm
specific.
saying.
I mean, for New Jersey for our listeners, but
Right, right.
all I'm saying is that
Yeah,
it's impractical if people's start times are the same and they are on two different sides of
yeah.
town
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to carpool together. That's just not going to happen for whatever, for
That's
lots
fair.
of reasons.
That's fair.
They're
I
just
mean, there
not going to do
also
that.
could be rentable golf carts in the town, so it's not like it's not like you have to own your own golf cart. I feel like you could also. It's a golf cart is like how you rent a bike in the city. We have a system called City Bike for those who don't know in New York. There's a similar system in London, various places like that. At that point, if you're taking the golf cart into town, you in town, if you could probably have some sort of bike share program or a golf cart share program. I think. I mean, I just
I think
the
they
idea
need an
that each
evolution of it
person
where
needs a vehicle is just like
when were these towns made? I mean,
in
yeah,
the
when were these
50s.
towns
No,
made?
no, you're right. They're 50s,
So
60s.
more often than not in that time, I would
Mm-hmm.
say that probably if there was a family, was the wife staying home and
Oh,
not
of
working?
course. That's how most suburbs. I mean, but here's the thing: all suburbs were created this way. So I mean,
Yeah, and
like,
that's what I mean. So there needs to be an evolution of that. I'm not like
yeah,
poo-pooing the
yeah, yeah.
idea that it can't work, but now
Right.
you have people where they're both working and they
Yeah.
need that independence. Carpooling's a nice idea. I don't know anyone that does it, I'm gonna be honest.
Except for the massive HOV lane on the
That's just
like
occup
highways.
though. That's not, I mean, it's you could say it's for carpooling, but you just need more than what, two, three heads in the car and
That's
you're good to
correct. Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that's like normal family or people just driving somewhere. Is
Except
it
that it's
for
only during rush hour. It's during the times of commuting. But I hear what you're saying. You're taking the kids somewhere, probably to school or something.
or anywhere, just driving? But yeah,
Yeah, well, no, yeah, but if you're, it's during work, it's during the workday, it's during week. The HOV lane exists
yeah, but
during
people, there's a lot of
peak.
people in the state that drive on that road and
Yeah.
they're not always heading to work. There are reasons why you are driving your family somewhere during rush hour traffic that does nothing to do with
Okay.
work or school.
That's fair. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, yes, there are definitely hurdles, pitfalls to the idea of a town based exclusively around golf karting. Uh, but yeah, this one exists. So here's some interesting tidbits of what was going on in this town. I wanted to also say that this town, because of their golf karting and a couple of other things, the median home sales price is well above the at the median for their county. So they are at the top end of their county, which the article was semi attributing to the ease of access with regard to using your golf cart and getting around the town. In a 2007 study from the UK's Lancaster University, it suggested that golf cart paths of Peachtree City could help reduce transportation costs and alleviate the social isolation endemic to car-oriented suburban life. So that was just one of those things that was thrown out there. In 2022, tensions over whether the path system should be a private amenity accessible only to residents came to a head when homeowners associations of one affluent neighborhood pushed Peachtree to close a path connecting it to a town called Tyrone, an adjacent and somewhat less affluent jurisdiction. Members of the homeowners association raised concerns about safety and traffic, arguing that Peachtree City's infrastructure would be further strained as surrounding areas were developed. Now, I thought that was really interesting because I feel like that is what I envisioned you would butt up against if you were taking this to a town hall meeting or a town council meeting in anyone's normal, like a suburban town, is that there would be somebody who would say, well, that's all great if we built this, but then what about the other towns? Like, are they now just bringing their golf carts into our town in order to take use of how, like, much easier it is to get around? Are we able? What are we basically getting from other towns by allowing them to come to our town? And then, what's that quid quo pro? What is the what are we gonna get? Like, what are the other towns gonna do for us in order to, like, incentivize this, like, opening up of this initiative? I thought it was now, the funny thing is I wanted to look this up because immediately as soon as I read that, I was like, okay, so Tyrone's like really poor, right? I was like, where I was assuming, I was like, okay, so once again, it's one of these situations where the rich people don't want the poor people coming in and using their nice stuff, because they'll get it dirty, or whatever nonsensical reasoning people might have towards that. But funny enough, so I had to look it up. So this is outside the article. I looked it up, and the thing is, the median income for Peachtree City is around 104,000. Okay, which is quite high, especially for the South, for Georgia. But this city of Tyrone, their average is around 94. So you're looking at their median. So you're looking at like a 10. It's like around a
What's the
$10,000.
population size of Tyrone?
Dang it, that I did not.
Peachtree City's
That's
35,000
correct.
or
Peachtree City is
38.
30.
Oh,
That's
that's weird.
correct.
Which
Yeah.
one? That's
No,
weird.
it went up. It went up. So
2010
you're
was
looking at, yeah.
34, 2021's 38.
No,
Okay.
I had
20, so
that.
it's 38,000. So then
Yeah.
Tyrone, Georgia,
Yeah, Tyrone and Fayette County. So you could look that one up while I continue.
7,000. Oh, so I was going to say, then I don't get it, because I was going to say, that's weird. Unless
If it
unless
is,
out of
if
that
you're looking at the
7,000, you
right.
have some really wealthy people that are moving that average up.
I mean,
And
7,000 doesn't seem right. That you sure that's the? I mean, that seems really low. I mean, for a
that's the
town,
town.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a small little town. So you could
Okay.
actually, so the way that would work, you might your inclination may have been right, where the majority of that town is poor, and then you just have some ultra wealthy people who own a bunch of land
Mm.
that are bumping that average up.
Could be, yeah, you could
Maybe.
be right, maybe. But I mean, again, I mean, I feel like that's just like, that's you're always it sucks for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
because I mean,
No, it's not justified. I'm just saying that that's
yeah,
probably what's
yeah.
happening.
I mean, it's
It's
just a
kind of
rough it's a
justification.
rough experience, because I mean, at the end of the day, and Tyrone has invested. I think they invested like 300,000 or something in terms of trying to get the similar development in their town, which is good. I mean, that's the other thing. At the end of the day, I would. It's a shame that we have that clannish mentality of, like, this is mine, this is mine. I don't want anyone to take away from what is mine, without the academic understanding that if they were to either apportion some money to Tyrone or get that Tyrone to integrate, that they actually might lift the income of that town by the fact that they're sharing in this, like, wonderful, resourceful gift of not having to get into a car in order to move around. Just like their town, they're like, again, their median income has raised as a result of this specific benefit to the town. Similar would
Well,
happen to surrounding towns, which would only again further raise the value of their own homes. I think that's there are a lot of win-win possibilities there. So it sucks to be so closed off by what appears to be short-sightedness of, in the immediacy, we are worried about these people coming in and getting golf carts and coming in through our town. I mean, that is what it is.
I mean, the
A
aversion I
shame.
have to it is that it's not compatible with everywhere else. And if everywhere else started to adopt it, I would be much more open to the idea of redoing a single town's infrastructure, because obviously it wouldn't be a single town then. Because that's kind of where there's an impractical nature to it, where if you don't have to leave, if you're a town of retirees and you guys are just doing your thing in that town and you don't need to go anywhere except a one-off trip to see relatives and you'll figure it out, that's fine. But for a more active town that is going in and out and traveling the county, state, and country, um, you it just needs to be a more practical layout. And if the surrounding areas started to adopt it, well, then you could get more sophisticated. Because
Yeah.
the idea that, okay, you only have, because it's interesting, because what the proposal here is that you only have these pathways, where clearly in other cities you have a main road, you have a railroad, you have a bike path, you have
Correct.
these different things. So you could
Yeah.
start to imagine more dedicated type roadways, but maybe not. I don't know if they run parallel to one another, but that you get around, or you have more sophisticated mass transit. I mean, I remember seeing years ago on like the Science Channel where you would have these vehicles. They looked like the size of golf carts actually, and you would kind of drive them up into this main corridor where they would link together. They would travel as one unit, and then when you needed to break off, it would break off, and it was kind of
That's
magical in
great. That's
that way.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
How do you achieve that? AI and
Yeah.
math, maybe I have no idea, but
Yeah.
you can just start to do really cool things when you start rebuilding infrastructure in a comprehensive way, in a holistic way. But now you have like tech to actually imagine what could be possible, and you do it with function in mind, not just that a car lobby, like you were saying earlier, is advocating to make everything cater to cars.
Right.
Don't cater to a mode of transportation. Cater to what moves people, why people are moving. Understand what they're trying to accomplish. It's almost just like rethinking the formula a little bit,
Yeah.
so that you're building a city for people and not for, I guess, an industry.
Here's the thing. I mean, I'm on board with that. I love what your head's at. I just this is me giving up. So this is me realizing that Americans are never going to go for it. They're not going to go for redoing their infrastructure for public transport that is significantly cleaner and more efficient. It's just never going to happen because people at the end of the
Well,
day
why
they
not EVs though? Why not just like
well EVs are
I mean,
big. EVs are big and they're expensive versus a
so
golf
that's the
cart which
thing.
is
This is
like
more cost effective.
$3,500.
Yeah, no,
It's like
that's a
are you
really
going to
good point.
buy a $50,000 Tesla, or are you going to buy a $3,500 golf cart?
It's a good point. I mean, cutting emissions is key to this whole climate thing.
It
We
is. It
covered
is.
Norway, where they're doing
Mm-hmm.
zero emission construction sites because they're using electric vehicle construction tools and
Yeah,
vehicles.
yeah.
And the more that we all can do stuff like this, the better. So I'm definitely interested in this. I think that it's the adoptability. One, it's a cost to redo roads and especially if you have to redo the layouts.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh
then you
yeah.
have if you have a shopping center in your town, right? Not every town has a big shopping center. Usually they're kind of clustered in an area, and then other towns go to them. If you're a golf cart only town, that's not going to work for people on the outside without some type of program or some rental thing. It just becomes impractical after a while. So I think accessibility is key. You need to understand why people are moving, and then it needs to be more holistic than just one town, because it's only going to work for those special cases, those outliers, where those folks all vote unanimously that they don't need to go anywhere else and they're perfectly content staying put.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, because again,
Tell me why no.
you still have the ability to own a massive Hummer if you still desire. So here's the thing: I'm glad that you brought up cost because that I thought cost is something that I honed in on, which is where I did some ancillary research to this article because they kind of just did for Bloomberg. I mean, they did a lot of glossing over with regard to cost. They just simply said that it is significantly cheaper to implement or to cater to golf carts versus the current infrastructure of many suburban cities, which is suburban towns, which includes a fair amount of paving for roadways. So I went over to my favorite website, Strong Towns. People, you should visit it. The guy who runs it is a fantastically anti-suburban uh, math whiz who like loves to break this stuff down in terms of how much the suburbs are costing America basically like every day and why are we continuing to support it. Strong Towns had these numbers. Okay, they had a cool chart which I can't see, you can't listener, you can't see, but I cherry picked from the chart with regard to how much roads cost us. So for example, a representative cost in 2014. So this is a while ago, people. Things are definitely way more expensive now than they were then. Thank you, inflation. Thanks for everything else. For reconstructing an existing lane of a major urban freeway, it's around $7.7 million per mile. Doing the same on a collector street in a small urban area sets you back around $1.5 million per mile. Now, the urbanization categories reflect the size of a city or metropolitan region. A small urban population is around 5,000 to 49,999 people, so under 50,000. Small urban would be Peachtree City, right? Because they're around 38,000. And the other city,
Yeah, but
Tyrone,
what's the cost to to change. These are
This
numbers
is
of
this will no
established
this is I'm talking
things,
I'm
right?
taking repaving. So it's like basically, yes, you're right. You have the existing framework of a road, and to basically completely redo it, these are the costs per mile, right? So I had to start somewhere
Is
because
that
there's
what it
no
is? Is that
that's what it is.
literally that you're just going to make every road smaller?
No, I mean,
Um,
well, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just trying to say that this is how much
then what's the point?
every.
Just say like, just keep the roads and just have the golf carts driving on them. Like, who cares?
Yeah, you could do that.
And then through
But
attrition,
why
if
would
you
you do that? That's I guess like let's get down to it. But what? Here's the thing: you have to keep maintaining these roads. These aren't
no, but then
one-off
once you have to
costs. You have to
redo it,
keep
yeah,
doing
once you have
this.
to redo it, then yeah, you could just like downsize it, I guess. You just have to do the whole strip of road
Yeah,
at
well, I guess
once.
that's my point. My point is that a lot of people will say, I just wanted to get into the cost of how significantly cheaper it is to actually do the golf course paths because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to say I wanted to make sure that it actually was cheaper. I was like,
But you're
how
also going to
much
keep
cheaper?
the same, yeah. So I assumed
Mm-hmm.
that part of the, I'll say, efficiency of this golf cart layout
Mm-hmm.
was that the roads, because they're smaller, could take more direct routes and maybe have more connections.
It
I
can.
assumed that, but it
Okay.
doesn't sound like that is factored in because you're just talking about using the existing infrastructure.
Well, no, I'm saying no, I'm not talking about. I'm saying that if you were to keep the existing infrastructure and do this, you're still costing yourself a ton of money. Because it's one point, I'm just saying that these are the numbers. You're looking at this much per mile, to repave the existing roads. So I'm saying if you shrink it,
Yeah, but
it's an added cost, like it's a new cost, but it is less expensive than if you were to maintain what
maintain it.
you
Yeah, but
currently have.
the maintenance is stretched over a period of time, whereas this
So,
change is all upfront cost.
no, this is the maintenance I'm reading to you. This is the upfront cost of maintaining your road. When you need to repave the road, this is how much it's going to cost you. This is an
So you're just
upfront
saying when
cost.
you happen to
Yeah,
don't do anything new today, but when
correct.
you need to update a road, that's when you do your switch.
Yeah, you could do that. You could choose to do that. However you choose to implement it is up to each town and municipality if
Well,
you
it's up to
choose
their
to do this.
budgets. It's up to their budgets.
But all I'm saying is that the budget you are going to use to repave your road, okay, is more money than if you were to implement a new system of golf cart paths. Does
That
that
doesn't
make
no, you
sense?
know, that doesn't make any sense. No, it if to change a road like you're
Yep.
telling me,
Yeah.
towns have lots of roads.
Correct.
So and they have a set budget.
Yep.
So you can't updating every road
Well, you
in
wouldn't. You can't
yeah,
update
you can't
every
do
road.
that.
No.
Yeah.
But the road, I'm saying that if for each road you need to update, okay, let's say you're a small town, okay? Let's say you have 5 roads. That's $1.5 million you need to allocate for each road. Okay, so that's 5 times the 1.5. That's how much money your budget needs to be in order to repave the existing infrastructure road. Now you already have that money because you have to do it. So you have this money. If I told you don't do 5 roads, do 3, and turn 2 into multi-use paths, the amount of the 1.5 million at that point it'd be 3 million because I'm taking 2 roads. I'm saying the $3 million you were going to take to repave that road, don't do that.
Yeah,
Use it and
and now
change it.
now it's inaccessible for the entire town because not everyone has this EV.
It's you look, you can't solve everything by it's yeah, you're right. I've talked a lot on this
It
pod
needs to be
about
a
bad
massive
legislation. Hold
program.
on.
That's
I
what I'm
talk a
saying
lot
is
about bad legislation.
it
That
has
would
to
be
be a
bad
massive
legislation.
program.
You're right. To take the money and simply destroy 2 roads and just say, all right, everyone,
Those are
they're,
paths
they're,
now.
they're passed now. With no incentive and no program for helping people get these $3,500 electric vehicles, which you could then pay for. At that point, the excess funding you could reallocate and use some of that budget money in order to offset the cost for people to start buying electric vehicles, buying these EV golf carts. So I'm saying there are many things you could do. You're right. That is an example of bad legislation. Destroying 2 roads and telling everyone, hey, everyone, get a golf cart. That's terrible.
So,
That's
all
not going
right.
to fly.
However, someone figures out that they can roll this
That's
out,
correct. You need to
I would
figure it out.
agree that cutting emissions through
Yeah.
EVs is is a big step, is a big leap forward. The problems are around how do you time the conversion of people switching over or acquiring these smaller EVs with the transition of the roads to paths or whatever they are called for golf carts,
Well,
making them accessible to out of towners, making them
yeah.
just so that you can still run your town the way that you do today. It's just more efficiently because that's the purpose of this.
So I did the math, and I just wanted, yeah, I hear you. Look, I hear what you're saying about that. All I wanted to get at in terms of this whole portion of this segment is that for the town of Peach, I'm forgetting. I keep wanting to call them Peachville,
Peachtree City.
Peachtree City. For the town of Peachtree City to install to basically repave over the 100 miles of golf cart paths that they currently own, it's around $6 million. That's an average. That's not using the highest end of material. That's not using the lowest end of material. Okay, that's like an in between. It's around $6 million to do the 100 miles of golf cart path. Versus
Are the police in golf carts?
the police can be in golf carts. Guess what? You know what? Most police stations, they have tanks, they have helicopters. I don't know if they want to
I
buy
want to
golf
know
carts.
what a
Sure,
traffic stop looks like
sure.
in this town.
I don't know. They could be
Is
on
he just walking
horseback.
next to him? Is he just walking?
I don't know if you know this, Jamie, but the police have a lot of ways to get around. I don't know if you ever watched Chips, but they've got the little motorbikes. Those work. The cops can use those because guess what? Cops are exempt from most speed limits and municipality law. That's one of the benefits of being a cop. That's why most people like to become cops.
I assume they use
Sorry
Segway.
to get out there,
I
but
assume they're using Segways.
they could even use a Segway because guess what? The police departments get a lot of funding and they have a lot of ways to catch people. So you're right. They may not be able to use the latest and greatest of their fast vehicles anymore, but there are a plethora of ways that cops already have in place in order to traverse small little roadways that are available to them. I have no fear that cops will be able to catch people on golf carts. A golf cart chase, now that is something I would love to watch. I would watch that on television. I'd watch the 10
I kind of want to
15
Google
minutes.
Peachtree traffic stop. Peachtree City traffic
I'm sure
stop.
it happens because I'm sure people get inebriated and think they can drive a golf cart because they're like, it's not a real car. I'm sure it happens all the time. Just like
on the grass, not on the pavement.
We don't have to look that up. You can look up on what's the famous place in the Florida Keys. They have no car cities out, like towns out there where everyone has to use golf carts. So I mean, we could just look at traffic stops in the Florida Keys for an example of what one may look like in a city near you, listener. There are plenty of places in America that you could use as your litmus test as to how this could possibly go down. Peachtree City is not the only place. It's just raised here because because it's diverse. Because a lot of the towns are like that. They're either a vacation town like the Florida Keys. Don't get me wrong. There are people who live there year round, but I'm just saying, majority of the money comes out of tourism. Or their retirement villages. This is a place that has schools, it has fire departments. It's a wealthy suburb outside of Atlanta, and it's got its kids. Literally, one of the pictures in the article was the kids in a line, basically driving home from school because the high schoolers, you know, anyone who's a parent out there in the suburbs thinking about dreading having to chauffeur your kid around because there is literally no agency for children in the suburbs in America. Once you need to start getting anywhere from the age of like 6 to 16, your parent is your Uber. They turn into chauffeur. They're no longer your parent. They're just the person that gets you from point A to point B. I would relish being able to be like, you know what, you're 14, get in the golf cart, go to school, go where you need to go. You don't need me chauffeuring you around because you're not old enough to drive, and there's no other way for you to get from point A to point B because we've built this suburban, hellish landscape of car hellery. It would be nice. That's all I'm saying. It would be nice. So I'm saying for children, there's a level of agency. I love that. For parents, a level of not having to get into a combustible vehicle, and also all the beautiful things that come.
What a story it would be from America going from muscle car to golf cart.
I'm sure Republicans will run with it. I mean, they'll call it the wussification of America. I'm sure it'll be right up there as
I
the
just, yeah,
wealthiest of them
it
enjoy
seems, oh
golf
man, it
carting
seems like a
around.
tough sell.
I
It's a
well,
cool concept.
it's
Listen, to be able to just, because in the beach town I used to live in, you would have people riding around in little like dune buggy type things,
yeah,
and
yeah, ATVs, yeah, yeah.
well, not even ATVs, like these other cars, these other
Mm-hmm.
types of, you would have it all the time, especially in the summer.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just short trips, like 5 minute trips down the road because they were just trying to go someplace local. Like I understand the concept, but you didn't see them traversing like through the center of town. So I think it's a cool concept. I think it needs more thought to be widely adopted. But maybe even if you just start knocking off the the towns that fit the mold today, like a Peachtree City, and start converting more and more of them, it'll become normalized and a thing that people see more often. And it won't be this thing to laugh at. It won't be this thing to shrug off.
What I think is funny in your muscle car analogy is the guy saying it has like a Trump. The idea that Trump would talk about muscle car America, a man who owns more courses than any other politician who has ever run for office, which means he spends most of his day either being chauffeured around by a driver or driving those golf carts around his golf course. The idea of those people, because those are the people who are going to be setting this message. They're going to be the ones talking about muscle car America wussification. The people who spend 98% of their life in a golf cart are the
Yeah.
ones who are going to be telling you that you're a wuss for adopting golf carts and not buying muscle cars. I just want to point out that hypocrisy and cut that off at the head, because that's the reality of that situation if we were to live in that version of our little hellscape.
It's yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's an yeah, I'd like to see how many there are, how how many municipalities there are that are taking advantage of this, how what the growth has been. I know that you said that this was established in 54, but have there been any conversions? Have any car communities converted to this?
That's a good. No, that's a good. I hope that
Because
someone
that's the question
does
here. That
try.
that is that that is the reason why
That's
you're
the
flagging
question.
is for a point of conversion, like that we
Yeah,
would
yeah.
convert to this.
Well,
Um,
some because again, I mean, I was talking to my wife about it. She was pointing out that our area in particular, again, you get snow and it's a particularly hilly area, right? It's right off of a mountain preserve, so golf carts are probably going to be a pretty terrible perfect storm. If a heavy snowfall
you got to
on the
put the
side of
tank
a
tracks
mountain,
on there. You put the tank
you
tracks on.
can put the. That's the thing. I've seen it. I've seen that on golf carts. I've seen people put tracks on there, but I mean, I still think that it's a slippery. Not to do the pun over, but that's a slippery slope of a of a situation. All I'm seeing is a 12-year-old getting in with their parent as a passenger on an icy sloped road. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, you would think, well, who would do that? And I'm going to be like, yeah, someone's going to do that. Someone is
Yeah,
absolutely going to do that. And
a
I don't,
12-year-old.
yeah,
Of course, yeah. I
yeah,
cannot
they're going to do
imagine
it.
being given a vehicle at 12 that could go 20 miles an hour.
Well, again, you can only drive if you have a parent in the side seat with you. So let's, there is a common sense to that law. Unlike gun legislation, there is a common sense to the golf cart law. If you're 12, you still need a parent to sit with you if you're operating a golf cart. Not necessarily true if you have a gun, but it is true if you are operating a golf cart. So,
There you go.
so
Well, that's interesting. So,
yeah,
a way to cut emissions, not
right.
anytime soon, but if we could figure out a way to convert areas or to at least make it more prevalent, right? You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
go 100% golf cart,
No,
but
you don't.
there are plenty of reasons that you leave your house, where a golf cart or some type of, we say golf cart, but imagine it's just a smaller EV,
Yeah,
enclosed, what have you,
cheaper. That's really what
right?
we're talking about here. The only
Yeah.
reason we're talking about golf carts is because they're
So
under four
smaller
thousand
EV,
dollars.
right? Imagine
Something that's super cheap.
one of those mini coupe things, but an EV and without
It
all the
doesn't even. Yeah,
branding, right?
maybe it's 8 grand. Maybe it's 10 grand. Yeah, something
Yeah.
that is just so
And
disposably
there's just
affordable.
there's more reasons to use this, right?
Yeah,
There's just more reasons to use this. I think that's I think it's yeah, you just need the infrastructure. You need to change the minds of people. You got to get past that initial reaction everyone's going to have because there's going to be a safety concern, right? You're not going to put
yeah, sure.
your infant in the back seat of one of those, right?
Well, you can.
Good.
It's not a real vehicle, so you can. You
I
can.
don't know what the safety ratings are. Like you need people to weigh in on that kind of stuff
You
because
could
no
do the
one
same
I
thing with a bike, though, too. And that's the other thing. It's still like it's we're talking about EVs, but it still opens up. People are still mobile. We're still human beings. You could ride a bike. You're reducing traffic and you're removing the possibility of being hit on a bike. You're making it safer for people to ride their bikes. So not only do you have the EV class of people who are using it, but you also have people who will use bikes. Because guess what? We have what do you call it? Neighbors in Europe that bike these distances and bike them regularly, and they're fine. They do it every day. It is not a
I gotta
big
be honest.
deal.
I would see I if you were to say where am I putting my money, that the majority of the population is going to start biking, or that municipalities are going to start building golf cart paths. I don't know, man. That's tough
Anyway,
because the biking is mental.
yeah.
There's a practicality to it. You don't want to be all sweaty when you get to places. I get it. But there's that
Which
mental.
is why you'd use the electric version, so you're not just pedaling up a
Yeah,
storm
I
like
mean, God,
crazy. So
it's hot as heck out the past couple of days. I wouldn't want to be out exposed to that AC pumping in the car. So
yeah,
I
well, maybe
get
it
it.
won't be so hot if everyone isn't stuck in traffic, blowing emissions into the air. Maybe, maybe it won't be so bad. How about that?
Maybe.
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 Okay,
But there's
maybe.
that, but then there's the like we've been talking about converting roads and all that stuff, which is just like a physical barrier. So yeah, I don't know what would happen, but but doing both of those, just incorporating them, giving people the option. It's not so much convincing the majority of anyone to do something, but when you start offering segments of the population their preferences, I'd be curious to know how many people take it up. I'd be curious if there's any polling or surveys or even a referendum just to see what the appetite is for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, you'd have to explain it. You'd have to really do a deep dive. Similar, someone would basically, you basically have to use this podcast and just send it to your local congressman, and your senator or your state legislator, and have them start a conversation about it. Because you just need the exposure. You need people talking about it. It's never going to happen if people don't talk about it.
What do you think so what you brought this topic up? What do you think this actually has legs? And if so, what are the steps or the likelihood that it will happen? Like what
I
what's the
don't know.
next like do you think that this was
I'm out
actually
of
happen?
ideas. I'm out of ideas. I'm out of ideas, and I'm at my lowest point because I'm a huge public transport guy. I want to be talking about streetcars. I want to be talking about fixing our dying railroad industry. I want to be talking about big picture ideas that could benefit us all. And the reality is there's so much red tape and there's so much lobbying by car industry and just plain old American, you know, allegiance to the car that I just don't think it could ever. It's not possible. It may be possible on a smaller scale, and some people might get some inroads through. I'm trying to think of a way to use what is already here as a culture, which is independence and the idea of having a vehicle that is your own that you don't have to share with a single other person, and it can get you from point A to point B. I'm trying to use that. I'm trying to use that same
They gotta it
thing.
can't be a golf cart. That's the thing. I think they gotta change it up. They
Okay,
gotta
what does it got to
they
do?
they got they gotta style it up a little bit. They
You
gotta
could
make them
you could pimp out a golf cart. There are they
you
that
have golf
happens.
carts, but you also have, like I said, the beach buggies. You sell that to the beach life. You get
Sure.
sport utility ones.
I
You
don't
sell it to the
care.
sport life, the hiking life, whatever it may be, the business life. You gotta have
Whatever it
different
is.
vehicles, just like we have so many different cars,
Yeah.
trucks. You know, you cannot be this golf cart with the little canopy. It
I'm not
can't be
against
that.
it. I'm not
They got to
against it.
change it up.
All I want is just that it doesn't have to be roads. I just want it to not have to be. I want it to be mixed use. That's all I want. Yeah, you could do if you want to do these things. I don't care. Do them to your heart's content, as long as it is easy enough to walk the roads without having to feel like you're about to be run over by a vehicle going 60 miles an hour. So
That's the thing is if you actually kept the roads that you had today, but now you just divide them up by bike and golf cart. They're
That's
the
what you could
same
do.
size,
You
but
could
now you
do
can just
that.
divide them up and now you
You
just
could
keep
you
that
could
same
do
thing.
that. It's still way more expensive, but you could do that. Yeah.
Well, everything's more expensive if, you know,
I'm just saying. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying if you kept the if you could. Here's the thing: we have so many opportunities that we could keep the existing road infrastructure. Which here's the thing: I don't. It is bleeding most towns. Most towns can't afford this, and there's a real reason for that. And again, we're not an infrastructure pod, but just a quick history lesson. All towns' roads that you currently enjoy were not built by your town. They were built by the federal government giving your town special exemptions in order to have these roads built. But the federal government never promised that they would help the towns maintain these roads. All they did was say, we will pay for the upfront cost. And the town said, yes, please. They were like, we want more people to come here. Yes, please. These roads, they sound really nifty. Yes, please. That GM commercial, I want those cars in my town. Yes, please. Federal government said, we know you'll say yes. Here's a blank check. We will pay for the roads to come into your town. And they knew very well that it would cost millions and millions of dollars to upkeep these roads, but they said, that's on you. We'll pay for the roads to come through. Maintaining them is on you. So a lot of towns have more roads than they necessarily can keep. But they built their towns around it, so you can't change because if you take out a road, that's first of all, most towns aren't even allowed to do that because you have to go into the state in order to remove a road. So there's so many things that landlock you into the existing infrastructure that we have to tolerate today. But it is definitely bankrupting a lot of areas because they just were not built to maintain this much traffic on this volume of road. So it's going to come to a head one way or another. It's just a matter of how, right? So this is just one way that it can absolve itself, or
well, I feel like it'll just turn into dirt roads.
or towns just stop paving them and they turn into dirt ways. Yeah. But the thing is, I think that's illegal.
Is it?
Yeah, I do. I think you have to maintain. There are certain roads that are not like they're like state roads, and it's like you have to maintain them. I don't think that that's illegal. So I will look into that. But my point is, I think that it's literally a rock and a hard place for most towns in terms of maintaining the roads that are currently within the town. Yeah, even if you wanted to, as a town, say I don't want to spend any money on that road. I don't believe you could possibly. I don't think you could legally do that. I don't think you could let a road turn to dirt. First of all, it wouldn't turn to dirt. It would turn to a hazard. And a car would like get wrecked because a huge pothole would develop before it became dirt. So
I
one way or
imagine that, yeah,
another,
they would remove it. But yeah, no, I get it.
yeah.
Well,
So you're locked in. You're locked in.
well, folks, there's one potential solution to cut emissions from Antoine.
Apparently, it's not very popular.
Convert
It's not
your
popular.
local town to
No
a
one likes
golf
the golf
cart
cart.
only.
The golf
Yeah.
cart utopia. Apparently, people are like, no, my golf cart is for my golf course. That makes perfect sense. My golf course that takes up a lot of land and space. My golf cart is for my golf course.
You
This
got to
is
stop
ridiculous.
calling it a golf cart. I think
This is
it's
ridiculous.
to even just get into the stage of, all right, well, let's talk about this. Um,
You're the marketer. Get on marketing. Fine. People market it into something else. But that, yeah.
remove hurdles where you can. And I think the first thing is you don't pitch it as that, you pitch it as a smaller EV that requires less infrastructure. It's a better suited option for you to do local activities. And then you name them, you make sure you're hitting the points that are going to resonate with people so that they say, I do that. I do that. Come to think of it, I don't do much else 90% of the time. Wow, 3,500 bucks. That works for me. I could give up a car. We could just use the one big car for the big trips. You just gotta create that for people to fit into, to step into. If you ask them to do too much thinking, they're gonna be like, I'll just keep what I got. I got other things to worry about.
We'll call it a crotch cart. All right, how about that? Or my what do you call it? My bicep mobile, or I don't know, my killing EV, my EV killer, something like that.
Your
Is that
climate car,
strong?
call them a climate car.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Climate car. That'll do it. That'll do it. Anyway, that went on further than I thought that was gonna go. That was a well, I mean. I think that's all. I think we'd probably never have to revisit this ever again. I think
Yeah, I
we've
think we've
exhausted
exhausted
everything.
Peachtree City, Georgia.
Never anything. Better hope
If
that
you ever see us on the street, don't even mention golf carts.
we got nothing.
Topic's dead to me.
Yeah, we'll never touch this one again. I hope that someone else has maybe something to refute all of this. Then maybe we'll go back. But I think I confidently say this is probably the last time, first and last time, you will hear this pod talk about golf carts with this intensity. So on that note, Jamie, where can they find us?
Folks, we got new content out every week. Check us out on Fridays. We also have different clips throughout the week, so just constantly check in on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter. We're there too. And wherever you listen to podcasts on audio version, we're there as well.
And with that, golf carts retractioning. Oh.